or how the conversation is shaping up?
According to the Constitution and the other laws that exist in government. Therefore, if we don't do something about the fact that governors must come before this committee so that we can do our oversight role, we shall ipso facto be undermining the Constitution. So I think this committee is extremely important to discuss this issue and therefore dispose of it in a manner that will set precedent for future committees of the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, members. That is the agenda. Members of the committee, we can adapt the agenda. It's a long agenda, but protest around one individual. Yes?
I propose.
Propose Senator Martha.
As the
Second, Senator Lisa Chelule. Members, indeed, we are here, and we want to ask DPP, because you are seized of the same matter, to maybe to brief the committee of the previous one of 2013-14 went and where it stands now.
Thank you, Chairman and honorable members. I think a couple of issues. This matter has been a subject of discussion before this committee and deliberation between the committee and ourselves and other coordinate agencies for many times, numerous times. And not just this matter, I think, this specific case, I think other cases of similar nature. And the impression one gets out of all this is the utter helplessness and impotence on the part of this committee, which is a tragedy. It's a tragedy and a total subversion of our constitutional democracy. There's a reason why the people of this country, in promulgating the Constitution provided in Article 96, that Chairman you referred to, established the Senate, the National Assembly, and gave them the power to oversight. You are coming to the end of your term in the next couple of weeks, months, I don't know. And these issues need to be resolved for the sake of the country and for the sake of the incoming parliament. Accountability is deeply entrenched in our constitution. Those who have the responsibility to manage public resources have a constitutional, legal, moral and ethical duty to be accountable and transparent in the manner in which they discharge that responsibility. And that includes the governors. And the law, the Constitution establishes accountability mechanisms. And such mechanisms include the Office of Auditor General, who has done his bit in regard to this and other similar cases, and the oversight committees of the National Assembly, or of the Parliament. Coming to this matter, because there are a lot that I need to say and I would like to say, but just to be specific so I don't take too much time. Regarding this matter, as you know, when I received communication from the clerk of the Senate, I directed the Director of Criminal Investigation to compile the file, which he did. Timelessly, I made a decision to prosecute, to charge. And from then henceforth, this matter has been pending before the court. Constitutional and legal issues have been raised, and the matter has been consolidated with another matter concerning the governor of Meru County. And the cases consolidated have been heard and scheduled for judgment on the 21st of June of this year. I am therefore constrained in what I can say about the merits or demerits of the arguments that have been placed before the judiciary, lest I am found to be held to be in contempt of court. So that is the clarification, Chair, as regards the specific matter that you have referred to. As to the wider question about generally what should be done, that I will be prepared to give my thoughts about it, I think, in the course of these deliberations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Senator Martha.
Thank you, Chair. I think the DPP has really captured our frustrations, because this is a matter we have ventilated about, even on the floor of the House. We have toiled with it for the last 3 years. In fact, some of the issues that were raised even in court by Governor Oparanya, he actually objected and said that Senator Halwale was the chairman of the committee. Now he's not even the chairman of the committee, so it had nothing really to do with who was chairing this committee. It is something that he has made up his mind that he won't be accountable, and it is quite unfortunate, because even as we wind up our term, we still don't have a way forward. But I am more interested, even without getting into the details of the court cases that are pending, to the IEBC. I think the other time we have deliberated on these matters, we have not included IEBC. And I don't know whether the CJ is represented, the Chief Justice, because we really needed the cooperation of the judiciary to be able to unlock this problem, because it is a precedent that has been set and will be very dangerous even as we go to elections. But on the issue of IEBC, and this to the legal officer, in the IEBC Act, Section 4J, in the development and enforcement of the Code of Conduct, because we must get a way of dealing with it somehow. And if we cannot get it through the process that is already being undertaken, then we must think of other ways of skinning the cat. And my thinking is that the Code of Conduct, if it is properly implemented by IEBC, we should be able to teach a lesson to characters like Governor Oparanya, really, who have defied the Constitution, ran away from accountability. In fact, when you look at the audit reports of Kakamega, you really feel ashamed that we have not been able to get answers for these queries. In fact, in one of the trade ministry, and I know you have looked, members, at this audit report, a whopping almost 214 million is not explained. If you do that in 25 audit queries of 2013-2014, if you do that with 2014-2015, we are talking millions of money. So I would like to hear from the IEBC representative that are we able to enforce this so that we can bar someone from actually being cleared by IEBC if you're running away from accountability, because it's really not a choice, it's a constitutional obligation.
Yes, Senator Matangi.
Yes, Chair, thank you. I want to first also thank the entire team that have come this morning upon the invitation of the committee. And Chair, just to follow up and also echo not only the words that have been said by the DPP but also by the Chair here, but in saying so also ensure that we are also loud enough to say that the Constitution is not ambiguous about how we should proceed with issues, with matters of failure or non-compliance with Chapter 6 of the Constitution. And because the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And Chair, this committee, in the presence of all the stakeholders in this meeting, needs to proceed alongside the lines where we should be seeking to make a determination on the matter. Because, Chair, as I say, to the Mwananchi, just like to anyone else, justice delayed is justice denied. And the people of Kakamega have sought to have justice on the question of the accountability of the monies which have been given to the governor of Kakamega for the last 4.5 years, Chair. And it is important to put on record that as of this date, not less than 30 billion Kenya shillings have been sent to the county government of Kakamega under the guidance and under the authority of the current governor. And Chair, with the provisions of the Constitution, I feel and firmly believe that this meeting should be taking a direction towards asking all the stakeholders who are here, and more so the IABC themselves, now that we know the provisions of Chapter 6, now that we know the implications of the law and all the acts, from the Public Finance Management Act to the County Government Act, Mr. Chairman, what we should be saying to the IEBC at the end of this meeting, in light of what has been said and also affirmed by the Director of Public Prosecutions, is the IEBC going to be receiving and accepting papers that would be proffered or given by one such as the governor for Kakamega to be deemed to be papers that can be used to clear a candidate to run for office of governor in a county on the basis that that person complies with the constitutional requirements of this country? That should be the question. And in spite of all the tricks and games, Chair, that have been played for those last years, Mr. Chair, all these institutions cannot fail to come up with a solution. And more so, IBC, in my view, cannot also sit or hide behind the curtain that they will be still waiting for another determination other than what is known in law, that for one to have complied with the law, Mr. Chairman, then they must have been first of all accountable and seen and known to be accountable, Mr. Chair. So the question that we will pose to IBC, and I would want personally to pose to IBC, is, will the name of the governor, current governor of Kakamega, be on the ballot paper of the Kakamega governor if he continues and has continued to defy, just on the pretext that he will be a clean man to run for a second term?
Yes.
My understanding is that all the institutions represented here this morning have received a brief from the Senate on why they were invited here. So I want to request, as a matter of procedure, that just in the same manner as the DPP has put his word on Hansard, we also allow the other institutions to do so before then we seek to clarify or urge them to move in a particular direction. I beg you.
We are coming in that direction. Let's hear from Senator Young of us.
Let me just underscore what Senator Alwada said. I think the DPP made a very, very good point. He lamented that this committee seems to be impotent. That's a very serious word, you know, especially when the king is next to me, and the king is supposed to be the most important man in the world. You know, that's it, by the way. I think the DPP made a very important point, that for him as an office, he's waiting for the court case on the 21st, after which he can then make conclusive statements about it, because he cannot since he's in the process of in which that case is being determined by but as Senator Alwale says, we need to hear the positions of our constitution officers. Remember my remarks regarding Article 96, that unless institutions of governance play their role regarding various constitutional responsibilities they are given, then we can easily not reinforce each other in implementing the Constitution. As far as we are concerned, we are given this responsibility at Article 96, but we cannot really fulfill Article 96 unless we cooperate with other institutions or work together. One institution is the Auditor General, who gives us his report every year regarding accountability. Our responsibility is then to call the governors to discuss the Auditor General's qualifications and to determine whether indeed they stay as the Auditor General has said, or we are given more information that can clarify these statements. Now, when a governor declines to do that from one financial year to the other, is he respecting his constitutional responsibility? And what do other constitutional officers say about that to help us solve this problem? I think this is the key to Alwale's request. So it would be good if we could hear from you, taking the cue from the DPP, so that then together we can find a solution. I suppose we are very clear on that. Yeah, please.
So for that reason, let's hear from the Auditor General. Auditor General.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the gravity of the matter that the committee is considering in the interest of accountability for our country. And as an office, our clear mandate is to look at all public entities and the resources that have been entrusted to them and report thereon as per the requirements of the Constitution, Article 229, both on the financial statements and on the effectiveness of the use of those resources, their efficiency and the economy. In particular, in respect to the county of Kakamega, we have delivered the reports for 2014, for 2015, and we are just about to release the report for 2016. I can confirm that consistently the reports are not good because they enumerate quite a number of issues that are not explained. And from where I sit, it's true that either the county government of Kakamega has challenges in terms of having the capacity to prepare, maintain, and report on their financial management, because that is what you see when you see a number of issues in the reports therein. That has of course been an issue between us and the county government of Kakamega in terms of responding adequately to those issues, and the reason that they are not adequately responded to or explained, they end up in the final audit report which the Auditor General has signed on the county. One of the issues that we are also following closely is the issue of non-implementation of audit recommendations, because as we do the audit work between the Office of the Auditor General and the auditee, there is a clear understanding that there are issues, there are gaps, there are challenges which needs to be fixed. And therefore, as the audit process continues, as the Public Audit Act 2015 spells out in section 31, the auditee is under obligation to fix those things. But if you look through those reports over the last 2 years, 3 years, it seems to have a pattern of issues that keep recurring. The recurrence means that a number of those issues are not dealt with, because if they are dealt with in the first year, then the second year you expect that you will have a lesser number of queries or different nature of queries. But the consistency of the nature of queries that are coming means that they are not adequately addressed. This may not be a particular problem for Kakamega County alone. It's spread across many entities where some issues keep recurring because of some inherent challenges they may be having, or lack of serious action on the audit recommendations. So therefore, in this particular issue, we are with the committee in terms of finding a critical way forward in ensuring that not only the county government of Kakamega, but every other entity with public resources accounts for its resources to ensure that the people of Kenya get the services that the Constitution allows them to get out of these resources. When I read through the Public Audit Act in relation to the Constitution on this subject, it's clear that this committee and the Senate as a whole and Parliament as a whole has the responsibility to look at those issues of oversight and make recommendations. But one thing that struck me when I was looking through this is the issue of where a member or an OTT refuses to appear before the committee, it creates a question of contempt. And if it is contempt of the committee, in the light of Article 75 of the Constitution, can that be taken to be gross misconduct? Can it be taken to mean abuse of office, which then means a serious other resolutions? That is some of the issues that I was looking through that the committee may seek further legal advice on in making a decision on this area. Of course, the Public Courts Act and the Constitution allows that where there is mismanagement of resources, the Auditor General can make a recommendation for withdrawal of funds. But in this case, that is a wider issue. We need to look at, is it the county that has failed, or is it an individual within the county? How do we separate the issue of the individual from the county government and its operations? That is another issue that comes to fore when you consider the subject matter that we are discussing. I know the other entities have issues to comment on. I will want to say that as an office, we are ready and willing to continue the accountability journey despite the challenges, because sometimes when we get to this kind of situation where we are, which appears like it's a dead end, it actually frustrates the staff that work in these entities. Because when you go there and the OTT feels like nothing happens when you raise these issues, it actually creates a situation of some frustration within the effort, and that of course curtails the efforts of staff. But notwithstanding this, the assurance I want to give the committee is that the Office of the Auditor General is stretched in terms of resources, is stretched in terms of capacity, but with what we have agreed to do more with less to ensure accountability is ensured. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Auditor General. Can we hear from the Controller of Budget?
Thank you, Chairman and honorable members. As an office, I will speak from a general view that our mandate is to promote prudent use of financial resources in the country. And as correctly captured in the mandate of this committee, we do submit reports to the committee on a quarterly basis. In drafting these reports, we rely on the Integrated Financial Management System reports, which we extract, as well as individual returns from the counties. In those reports, what we do, we track. We do make recommendations, and on a regular basis, we do track the progress that the counties have made in terms of implementing our recommendations. I can say that in a number of cases, we have noted that some counties are non-responsive. There's an aspect of non-responsiveness where we identify and make recommendations, but those recommendations, after another reporting period, you find they are still outstanding, they're yet to be addressed. What we have done in the last hardly 2 months, we have written to all the counties pointing out the need for them to submit financial and non-financial information to us on a regular basis as envisaged in Section 166 of the Public Finance Management Act. So it's a matter that we've kept on following up with the counties to ensure there's responsiveness and to ensure that public financial management is upheld and the individual institutions are very responsible. That is our goal. In terms of discharging our mandate, again, what we have done, there are instances where we come across matters that we elevate. There are some matters we have elevated and reported to other institutions, which we collaborate closely. Whenever we get matters that we think are warranted to bring to the attention of either ESCC or the Auditor General, we do that so that as they undertake their other mandates, they can be able to consider those matters. So generally, as an office, we are trying in as much as possible to ensure that the space of promoting prudent use of our public resources, which are scarce, is upheld by all players and in conjunction with the other institutions that I have mentioned. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. You will furnish the committee with the extract. The one you normally prepare for counties, for this particular one, for Kakamega, year 1, year 2, the way you normally get the summaries, the analysis. Yes. Can we listen here from the IEBC?
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the IEBC, I wish to state from the onset that the CEO informed me that he wasn't sure as to why we had been invited to this meeting. So my instructions was to come and listen and find out why we were invited to this meeting. Having said that, however, the Commission is charged with the responsibility of conducting elections. The Commission is charged with the responsibility of ensuring that the constitutional provisions for qualifications and disqualifications of a candidate are adhered to. And some of these provisions require that the candidate do meet the moral and educational requirements that are set out in the Constitution and other legislation, and issues touching on Chapter 6. And with respect to matters Chapter 6, Mr. Chair, as you're aware, there is the ESCC, which body is charged with implementing provisions under Chapter 6. And as for candidates for elective office, they are required to submit a self-declaration form stating their suitability to moral and ethical provisions. Hence, issues touching on abuse of office are some of the considerations that perhaps would come through the self-declaration form that ESCC would look into. As you may be aware, Chairman, the Commission has established an interagency collaborative desk and relationship, which brings on board other agencies whose mandate will be to assist the Commission, and in particular the returning officer, in terms of confirmation of suitability and qualifications to vie as candidates. Thank you, Chair.
A point of order.
Yeah, my point of order is, of course, I hear IEBC, but from this invitation that you sent, Chairman, in fact, IEBC were the first addressee. So in terms of the matters, I think they were adequately raised in this letter and invitation. So I would expect that IEBC tells us that whether does it think that these amount to gross misconduct. I think we need just straight shooting answers. We don't need to go around. Let us hear. Does IEBC think what Governor Oparanya has done warrants disqualification. I think I would want to hear that from IEBC.
Let me just add to what Senator Wangaria said. I read in the papers. Papers may not represent what the IEBC is saying, but I did read in the papers that one of the issues that you're raising is people with cases before courts. I was puzzled because when there are cases before court, you don't know how it's going to turn out. But something was said in the papers that one of the issues that Ethics and Corruption Commission is going to consider people with cases before court that relate to misconduct or abuse of office or things like those. Now, here is a case which is before court, and we have explained to you the circumstances that led to it and what the substance in the court is. And one thing comes out: when a state officer refuses to act in accordance with his responsibility, does that amount to abuse of office? In this case, the responsibility of the governor is to come before the committee and respond to the Auditor General's questions, as other governors have done. That's one. Secondly, there was a case before court regarding 2013-2014 audit issues. That notwithstanding, other audited accounts have appeared since then, 2014-2015, and the governor has refused to come to respond to 2014-2015, which is not before court from the facts that we have before us. Does that amount to abuse of office or declining to exercise his responsibility as a state officer as stated in the Constitution? So if you are going to raise cases before court as issues of determining whether somebody is suitable to run for office or not, here is a case in point, more or less a case study, which asks you and the Ethics and the Corruption Commission, how do we deal with this case which is so concrete and so relevant to the issues we are raising? So the CEO saying that he didn't know why he's called here, to me is a flippant answer, because the letter says that we are dealing with the issue that you yourselves are considering in clearing candidates. It's a case in point. Can you respond to that? If you cannot respond to this one, then what you are saying you are doing regarding cases in court is actually not serious. That's my point. I was just under
Chair, can I?
You will take note. We'll give you time. Yes, Senator Matangi and then Senator Jinyagarwe.
Okay. Chair, I just wanted to add a little bit of what Senator Nyang'nyong has said, and especially in picking out with IEBC. IEBC, you know, it is a requirement through your own act of establishment and the functions of IEBC itself, and in your functions of conducting elections. Right now, as you invite us as candidates to come and tender our papers, one of the requirements is that I need to come and bring to you a nomination certificate from my party. And the process upon which you require that nomination process to have been undertaken is, one, through vetting, and having passed through, one, the integrity test, prudence in management if I'm a public officer, and all the other requirements. And if in the first place you do not look back and ask when we come to bring those papers, how have you traveled this journey, for example, to come and get a nomination certificate that you are going to come and produce to us? Because you see the part that is not satisfactory is to say, for example, that until or when any other institution has declared that this person is either clean or clear to run, but in the face of overwhelming evidence that would still be in front of IEBC, that you would still not be able to act, and more so because that would be used as a simple method of defeating justice. And lastly, as Senator Nyang'nyongo says, then why go for anybody else, including all those other people with pending cases? If you call them pending cases, this is a pending case. It is in front of the court of public opinion. It is in front of Senate and Parliament and the entire country, including the people of Kakamega.
Senator Engineer Garwe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you know, the real gain that Kenya has got from the new constitution was devolution. And Parliament had in the past tried small ways here and there, how you can say it fast to the ground. And because there seemed to be some reasonable impact, we all thought that by sending these, can I call them huge amount to the ground, would make the difference. It should lift the communities to where we all were aspiring. But now it looks like we are playing around with small sounding issues, the end result of which is that we said 8 or 9 billion to Kakamega, for example, 1 or 2 billion goes into thin air, and it looks like we can keep talking third year, fourth year, and so on. So very unfortunate, and I think there are very many issues I'd wish to probably table for discussion. But because our discussion today is very specific, let me refer one to the Director of Public Prosecution. You know, Mr. Tobiko, I'm seeing one small elephant in the room, which seems to be like the one the whole thing is revolving around, which is that we as a committee of Parliament, the Senate, we invite the governor to come and ask, to come and respond to issues, good or bad, out of the audit report. He doesn't respond, he doesn't come. Again, he doesn't respond, he doesn't come. Eventually, we said summons. Through that summons, they end up in your office, it's a court case, and the court case is not responding to the summons of the Senate. But then, the answer, Mr. Deputy, Mr. Prosecutor, Director of Prosecution, is that the governor then goes round and he then says, yes, but when the matter of oversight is being done, it's being done by the county assembly, and so long as the county assembly is not finished with that oversight bit, then the Senate should not come, and that's the reason why we are not coming. And therefore the whole matter of the constitutional review, I don't know whether that's the correct term, is that he should not have been called here in the first place. He should not have been summoned in the first place, and therefore there should not have been a case, and therefore now, because there should not have been a case, therefore the summon was illegal, and therefore the court case is illegal, all revolving around this small elephant, Mr. Director of Prosecution, whether or not the Senate had the mandate or the power, if I think it's the power because the mandate is there, to raise the issues on the Auditor General's report when the County Assembly is also looking at them. Because what I'm seeing, Chair, is that even if we come out of this and then he goes back and say, originally I told you I'm not supposed to come there. So maybe to invite a comment on this, what I would call a very fundamental, small-looking thing, which is the one which has raised all this, by maybe comment by the Director of Prosecution. I have other issues with the IBC, but maybe a comment on this one, so that you know which direction. I know you did say that there's a limit beyond which you can comment on an ongoing court case. Thank you.
Point of information, then
yeah.
Senator Kalwale.
Maybe this to Senator Karua, maybe as a point of information. It's unfortunate we don't have the CJ or the CJ's office, but the courts had actually pronounced themselves on this matter in terms of the mandate of the Senate, in terms of summoning the governors. It is already out in the public domain that the Senate has the full mandate to actually call governors to accountability.
Yeah, but you see, Chair, the whole thing revolves around the same. The sermon came because the governor refused to come, and the governor refused to come because he said, you know, whereas you have the mandate, you must listen to the mandate of this more federal court, the county assembly. Maybe I could be wrong, but that is what I've read through all the correspondence and so on. That's what I've read. Whereas the judiciary has pronounced that, yet the governor has raised an issue which is questioning the court case in the first place. So if we took that ruling that the Senate has the power, then we should not be here discussing this court. I don't know, maybe notwithstanding Senator Wangari's comment, or can perhaps let's hear what the director has to say.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to have a few issues to seek clarifications from the various institutions, and I don't want to do it now. What I want to do now is to request Madam Dorore, do you introduce yourself? You are a lawyer, and I'm a doctor. I can roughly therefore say that you are a senior lawyer. You don't look like a youth. You receive.
I don't see how that relates.
You'll see very shortly. You'll see very shortly.
Fine, proceed.
I'm actually congratulating her for being an experienced lawyer. Mr. Chairman, Madam came here because of this letter. This one, signed by the clerk of the Senate. And as a lawyer, you come and casually tell us in a formal sitting of Parliament that you don't know why you have been called here. The CEO has told you to come and find out why you've been called here. I refer you to this paragraph, which reads in the letter that brought you here, on the last page, third last paragraph. It reads that at its sitting held on Tuesday the 9th May 2017, the committee noted with concern that once again Honorable Paranya had failed to appear before the committee as requested, and consequently the committee resolved to convene a consultative meeting of stakeholders to chart a way forward on how issues of governors who fail to account for public funds while in office should be addressed. This, therefore, is to invite you to participate at the aforementioned forum. And then you come here with nothing. And you are a public officer who is supposed to respond on this. I want to ask you, since you are a lawyer, and since you are aware of Article 125 of the Constitution of Kenya, specifically 25(2)(a), would you rather we listen to you as Parliament through this friendly consultative meeting, or would you like us to invoke Article 125(2)(a), so that now we examine you and cross-examine you on oath as a witness? Having said all those things, I'm asking you to respect us. What we are doing here, we are fighting corruption. And we have been fighting corruption for many years. And when you stand in the way of fighting corruption, the way I'm afraid you are sitting to appear, then you are the enemy of the people. Can you tell us whether you are prepared for this meeting or not? If you are not, you go prepare and come and help this committee. You are a pivotal institution that will be determining whether we are going to set a precedent in this country where a public officer, specifically a governor, can defy to respond to accountability and still continue serving in a public office.
Order. Lastly, Senator Lisa.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I also want to add my voice to my fellow senators about this issue. As much as Senator Kalwale is pinning on one officer, but I think with the existing institutional structures, constitutional structures in this country, there are those structures that they are supposed to address issues of revenue at the county level. And one structure is the Senate. And thanks a lot, Mr. Senator, because you did our mandate. You talked about our mandate as the Senate. And our main mandate here is to protect the county. And we have done this. And something is telling me that there is a reason why Oparanya is choosing not to come to this committee and he chooses to go to court. So all of us, we must be honest. We have institutions here. I've heard Auditor General talking about quarterly report. What are you getting from this quarterly report? Every time, especially when you hear somebody refuses to sit before this committee. What are these quarterly reports that the Auditor General is doing? So it is not about a particular or one institution. It is about all of us. We need to be honest to Kenyans. This is money belonging to the citizens of this country, and we really need to be honest to our duties. Thank you, Chair.
You may put off your mic. I'll give time to the various agencies present. If there is any query or clarification that touches on your office that you may need to contribute, that will be fine. But we'll start with IBC.
Thank you, Chair. I once again want to say that we respect the Senate and the role of the Senate. And again, to state, as I earlier stated, I was only called in to come into this meeting to represent the CEO only a few minutes to 10, and your office can confirm that. I also wish to state that as a senior lawyer, and a respectable one at that, I think I respect Honorable Kalwale, and I do not take kindly to intimidation, especially by citing Article 125. I respect the Senate, I respect the member, I respect all members, and I respect the Constitution. I was only being honest and clear that I had only been asked to step in for the CEO. And as a lawyer, had I had time to look at the letter, read the letter, perhaps I would have been able and be in a position to better advise this committee. But I wish to further state that if there is any issue, if there is any matter that this committee requires the Commission to address itself to, then that issue should be placed squarely at the table of the Commission, and the chairperson and the commissioners should be in a position to respond to this committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Order, yes.
Yes, Chair, thank you. With your permission, I wanted to introduce that as and acknowledge what the representative of IBC has said. And Chair, in pursuit of that, indeed, I felt and I still feel that it is important that for a petition to be placed directly for IEBC to be able to address itself to, even as the representative takes note, and the petition should be that the IEBC should not and shall not accept nomination papers for the candidate for the governor of Kakamega in the name of Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya in the absence of clearance from all the institutions of government, including the Senate, on the accountability and the whereabouts of public funds entrusted to him for the years from 2013 to 2017, and that be treated as a matter pending in institutions of law and the Constitution, just like the High Court. And in the absence of that clearance, IEBC would be very, very hard put to address this country straight-faced and say that they themselves are not abettors of corruption or helping corrupt people pass through, such that we would be sure, and I would say that is a petition, madam, that not only that governor, but all governors who have defied, but the kingpin, the front runner is the governor for Kakamega, and he should not be allowed. It should be a direct petition to the IEBC to respond as to why should they clear an individual like that one to run for office. Why should they?
So that I can give my colleagues, we need to state that we had issues with a few governors, and eventually all of them came, and they have done very well. Machakos, Meru, Bomet, and all those ones, even Kiambu. And it is just simply accountability. There's nothing else to do with anybody, anything personal. So this one is a very peculiar case, madam, and we better take it serious, all of us. That's why it looks like you have the letter yourself. You haven't maybe gone through it. Did you want to go through it as a commission thoroughly? You understand the gravity of the matter? Because it is this serious that over 30 billion, nobody can pin a finger on. The Auditor General has gone 3 times, and you have heard what they have said. DPP has also done his. We have only one window. That fellow should not even be elected even as a village elder whatsoever, because if you have refused now accountability for anything, and even simple positions like that require accountability to the nearest people you are leading. He may be a good man, but without taking responsibility, it doesn't matter. Everything else comes to zero. Yes, let's hear.
Let me propose the following. I think we can make progress regarding what I can understand the lawyer from the IBC that the chief officer, chief executive officer, just asked you to come without preparation. I mean, yes, I could understand from your point of view that you were not prepared. Having said that, you have now listened to the issues being raised, and I think now you are more informed about the issue at hand. Let me just summarize the issue as follows. 1, to what extent is a public officer responsible to the institutions of governance as stated in the Constitution to account for public funds, especially when there are institutions to which that public officer should report? When such public officer fails to report to those constitutional offices, to what extent can the IEBC and the Ethics Anti-Corruption Commission give such a person a certificate of good conduct to be elected once more to public office? Second issue is, having taken his case to court as a way of having redress through the judicial process, and knowing that the case is going to be heard once more on the 21st of June, and hence qualifies as a case pending before court, to what extent is the IEBC and the Ethics and the Corruption Commission ready to give such a person clearance to stand for public office? Because you did state in the papers, which puzzled me, that people with cases before court, and that there's a case by the Kenya Human Rights Commission or something like that going on now on that issue. How do you deal with such a case, a concrete one? And finally, I'm going to say the following. This committee is a committee given the responsibility of ascertaining that there's accountability of funds in the counties And there's a clear process in law and the Constitution for doing so. When a governor declines to obey or to be subject to such laws, and you sit down with the Ethics and the Corruption Commission to clear people, how do you deal with a case like that? Because this is a concern of this committee. This committee, like Senator Mamatangi, can say, according to this committee, such a person should not stand for election. But then this committee cannot make that decision. It is you, IEBC, and the Ethics and the Corruption Commission that must make that decision. Now we have come before you, sisters in justice, with clean hands before justice to see that justice is done. Are you going to take us seriously as a committee when we bring such a case? Or do you want us to call you once more before this committee